Hi Kids Rock kids and families, I'm so glad to see you today. I wish we could be together for Easter, so we're going to do this as if we were together. Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to tell you a few things that are on the Kids Rock website that you'll really enjoy. There's some coloring pages on there. There's 2 or 3 videos on the actual Easter story. And there's going to be a YouTube video on a book called The Tale of 3 Trees. It's a wonderful story and you can watch it together with your family. It'll be great. For Easter, I wanted to tell you the Easter story in a kind of an unusual way. We made resurrection eggs this morning and we went around all the house, all over the garden, in the garage, in all the boxes, and we found all kinds of things that tell the story of Easter. And it's all right here in my Bible. I marked my Bible up really good so I could tell it to you. But I want you to see it in egg form because it's kind of fun that way. All right, there are 12 eggs, just because that's how many there are in a dozen. And each one has something in it that represents a part of the Easter story. And so you can guess. I'll give you a second to guess what it means when I first take it out of the egg. Egg number 1. Ready to go? In egg number 1, we will find a donkey. Who knows what the donkey was as a part of the Easter story? That's right. It's from the Bible, Matthew 21:6. And it says right here in the Bible, the disciples went and did as Jesus told them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed their cloaks on them, and Jesus sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest." We call that Palm Sunday. It's just a name we've given it to be a part of the Easter story. Egg number 2. That's 8. Egg number 2. See? 2. Got it? All right, here we go. What's inside? What's inside? What's inside? Ooh, that smells really strong. Like perfume or something. Well, when Jesus and his friends were in the upstairs room, one of the ladies brought a very expensive bottle of perfume and broke it and washed his feet with it. So that also is in the Bible. It is right here. Number 2. In John chapter 12, verse 3. See right there? It says, "Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume, and she poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the whole house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume." Some people got mad at her. They felt like she was wasting money worshiping Jesus. But let me tell you something. You're never wasting anything when you worship Jesus. Just do it. Egg number 3. All right, this is kind of fun. We had a good time making this one. Okay, in egg number 3 is a piece of bread. And you know what this is if you've been having communion with your families, right? And a little tiny cup, the smallest one I could find. So we use the bread, and usually there would be a tiny bit of grape juice in here, and that's communion. Let me show you where that is in the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 26, verse 3, and it says, "While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, 'Take and eat, this is my body.' Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, saying, 'Drink from it, all of you. This is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins.'" That's a cool part. We do that often to remember that day. Okay. Egg number 4. The next part of the story. Ooh, what's in here? Oh, this is kind of the sad part. I hope you don't cry. Okay, Jesus had 12 best friends. That's a lot. I don't have 12 best friends, but Jesus had 12 best friends. And one of them was Judas. Some people think he was greedy, and some people think he just wanted something different than what Jesus wanted. But he went to the bad guys, and he said, "Give me money, and I'll give you Jesus," because they were looking to kill him. And so they gave Judas silver coins. There's 3 in here, but they actually gave him 30 silver coins to betray Jesus. That was a very sad part. And later, when he did betray Jesus, he felt so bad. He was very heartbroken that he had betrayed Jesus. That in the Bible is in the book of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 14. It says, Then one of the 12, the one called Judas, went to the chief priests, those are the bad guys, and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" So they counted out for him 30 silver coins. From then on, Judas watched for a chance to hand him over. That happened a little later in the story. Okay. Number 5. Is that really it? That was number 4? Yep, number 5. This is the sad part. There's a tiny cross here. Can you see it? It's a little cross. This is where they put Jesus on trial, and then they decided that he was guilty of pretending that he was God. He actually was, but they didn't know that. And then they hung him to a cross. They gave him a wooden cross, a great big giant one, and they made him carry it a long, long ways, and then they put him on the cross. Very sad. In the Bible, that is in several places, but I wanted to tell you about this place where it is. It's in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 17. Carrying his own cross, he went to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. Here they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, with Jesus in the middle. Very sad, sad, sad. Then number 6. Okay, they weren't satisfied just nailing him to the cross. They had to make fun of him, which is kind of very, very, very sad. They made this crown of thorns. I looked and looked for thorns. My rose bushes don't have thorns. So, but we do have, here's a tiny rose. You can't really see the thorns. And my goodness, the thorns were way bigger than that they made Jesus' crown of thorns with. And I have these like live oak leaves. They have really, really prickly leaves. And they hurt a lot if you step on them. But it was even worse than that. If you have a lemon tree at your house and you know those giant thorns on the lemon tree, that's the kind of thorns that was in the crown that went around his head. It made his head bleed. It was very sad. They were making fun of him because they didn't really know he was the King of the Jews. They just thought he was pretending to be King of the Jews. That's number 6. All right, number 7. What's in here? Oh, this is kind of sad too. They took all his clothes off him, and then they used a dice. And they rolled the dice to see who was going to get to keep his clothes. That was really, really, really sad. That in the Bible is also in John chapter 19, and it says, when the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 pieces, one for each of them. Let's not tear it, they said to one another. Let's decide by lot who will get it. So that they rolled the dice for his clothes. That's kind of a bad way to be to people, don't you think? I really think so. Okay, here's the next egg, number 8. Number 8, here we go. And I just dropped what I meant. Okay. Then the soldiers nailed him to the cross. Here's a tiny soldier. See a little soldier guy? I'm gonna set him right there. And they used nails, one in each of his wrists and one in his feet to hold him to the cross. They were not these little tiny wimpy nails. They were gigantic nails, and they hurt him very badly. He went to the cross for you and me because he loved us that much. He must have loved us a whole lot to endure that kind of pain. And then number 9. Right before he died, he said he's thirsty. So another one of the soldiers, soldier guy, come here, soldier guy. Sit right there. Okay, soldier guy. They took a piece of sponge, like the kind that your mom uses to wash the kitchen, and they put vinegar on it. Does vinegar taste good by itself? Yuck, yuck, no. And they're kind of taunting him or teasing him. They put it on a stick and they put it up for him to drink, and they said, if you're thirsty, you could just have this vinegar. It was really mean. I'm telling you, they were very mean to Jesus that day. All right, number 10. Number 10. So, finally, he died. And they wanted to make sure he was dead. So they put a spear in his side to make sure. Then they took his body down off the cross. His best friends took his body down off the cross. And in those days when they would bury someone, you know, have you seen the Egyptian mummy thing? You know, where they wrap them in cloth and stuff? Well, they kind of did that, a little bit like that. So here's a little strip of cloth. And here are some of the spices that they use, hundreds of pounds of spices to wrap his body in. And so they put the spices and they wrapped him in the cloth and they set him in a tomb. Now, the bad guys were afraid that somebody was going to come and steal his body and say that he had been raised from the dead. So they said, okay, we need to do something about this tomb. A tomb's just like a cave with a hole in the side. So they got a giant rock. This is a little tiny rock. But they got a giant rock and they rolled it in front of the tomb. But guess what? He didn't stay dead. That is the best part of this entire story. 3 days later, when they went to go fix his body up and get it finally ready for what they would have for a funeral kind of a thing, guess what? They opened the tomb and it was empty because Jesus was raised from the dead. That's the best news about it. It's even, I'll share with you right here in the Bible. It says, the angel said to the women went to go check on Jesus' body. And the angel said to him, don't be afraid. I know that you're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. And then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead. That is the best news of all. That's what makes Easter such a wonderful day for us. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Easter. And we'll talk to you again next week. Love you guys.